Hard to believe, but coming up on July 4th, it'll be a year of Sphere. Then again, the MSG Sphere at the Venetian has been so steadily in the news and pop culture since day one, it seems even longer. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we observe this anniversary with producer Layla Muhammad and newsletter editor Rob Catullus, and we're getting into the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of the big round blob literally watching over our city. It's Tuesday, July 2nd. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Rob and Layla, y'all ready to sphere it up?
Happy anniversary.
Yes, happy anniversary.
All right, team. Well, the Sphere has basically never left the news cycle since it launched 1 year ago. So what's been your favorite Sphere headline so far? I mean, it could be the title was clever or because the news was just so what the F?
My favorite headline where the news was what the F was the Sphere climber. And I'm actually surprised that it hasn't happened again. So back in February, Mason Deschamps, probably a French pronunciation that I'm butchering, but he calls himself the official pro-life Spider-Man. He is a professional climber and content creator. He pulled a stunt to raise money for a pregnant woman, and he climbed the Sphere with
Allegedly.
no ropes.
Well, we don't know what his destination of whatever fundraising he was trying to do is, I think.
Yes, allegedly.
And we're sure he wasn't dropped off by a helicopter or anything like that, right?
Right.
Well, he live streamed himself climbing the Sphere. So, I mean, we saw him get up there, and he caused, according to Metro, $100,000 worth of damage. This came the same month that the Super Bowl was coming, so a lot of attention on Las Vegas. And this actually wasn't his first time even climbing structures in Las Vegas as a stunt. He also did this to the Aria to protest mask mandates during the pandemic. But he was charged with destruction of property greater than $5,000 and conspiracy to destroy private property. And I think that is just like the craziest thing that has happened so far in the Sphere universe.
If you're interested, Layla, I did look up his case.
Yeah.
One thing that stands out is he was not arrested alone. He had a whole crew. I mean, from the people who were filming it, I guess, to the people who assisted in his mystery ascent. So they all wound up in court. And I looked up his case in particular, and it is still pending. He has switched lawyers a couple times. He's facing one felony and a couple of gross misdemeanors, so he could be looking at time or significant fines.
Yeah.
And his next court hearing is currently slated for the beginning of August. So that's an ongoing saga for pro-life Spider-Man.
If only he could harness his powers for good.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how that case turns out because when he climbed the Aria, that case was dismissed.
Yeah, I think maybe you get one free idiot move and then they kind of come after
He's
you.
used
Yeah,
his
we all
already.
do in Vegas.
How about you, Rob? What's your fave?
Mine's a little lighter. My favorite headline, and you might remember this one, is the Sphere is trolling golfers now. And this came with a viral video of somebody next door at the Wynn Golf Course taking a swing, and the Sphere was in emoji mode, and you could see the eyes follow the ball, watch the ball land, and then kind of make a face like it was judging
Excellent.
the drive of the golfer.
Yes.
And I don't know if that was just coincidence and what happened to be happening while this golfer was playing, or if there's actually somebody in a control room somewhere with a joystick just intentionally trolling golfers. But either way, it kind of plays into the mystery of the Sphere and how it all works. And there's a reason that video went viral, and I had fun watching it.
Yeah, emoji mode is my favorite Sphere mode.
I like the
Yes.
blinking eyeball because that's just absolutely creepy.
Well, so many good images that we've experienced, so many scary ones, and so many fall under the category of WTF. I did notice that recently, given our very intolerably hot weather, the emoji guy seems to be sweating profusely, which
Yeah.
He's one of us.
chef's kiss on that one. I mean, yeah, at some point, he needed to start sweating. I mean, come on.
And he shivers during winter.
Right. Well, my favorite has to be the one that was there for anyone to take, but this one guy named Charlie Warzel, who's a writer for The Atlantic, got it. Sphere and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, you could just stop at the headline. It's perfect.
Excellent headline.
But it actually fits the story as well. He tells his tale of flying into Las Vegas to write about the Sphere. There's a lot of talk about U2 and their preparations. But I mean, if you want one definitive outsider talking about Las Vegas piece where like almost every other paragraph is completely quotable, a spoiler alert, at the end, he becomes one of us to the extent that he winds up loving it, I guess, which are essentially the only two options, right? You either like it or love it. No other opinions allowed about the Sphere.
Well, that's kind of like the story of year one, isn't it? That we actually did embrace the Sphere as Las Vegans.
Yeah.
We kind of like it. It's in our skyline, and it's one of us now.
One of us. It was actually hard for me to pull a quote from Sphere and Loathing in Las Vegas because everyone was just so like gut punch good. But I did pull this one quote from the article, and this is in The Atlantic, if anybody wants to look it up. He points out that the Sphere was sort of based on a dystopic, apocalyptic short story from the 1950s about technology essentially killing us all. And so here was the quote. He says, "A cautionary tale about a murderous entertainment center would seem like a strange inspiration for a new venue, but the intention is clear. The Sphere, at least in the eyes of its creators, is intended to immerse, even consume, the spectator."
Yeah, very, very immersive experience. A little can be overwhelming, but definitely immersive.
I mean, it really does take you to different environments. At times, you really feel like you're inside. You know, for example, in that movie presentation, there's a moment where you're going through a cathedral and you feel like you're in this rectangular cathedral. I mean, you really do feel like you're time hopping to different places and different environments.
Yeah, that's the movie Postcard from Earth. That's a part of the Sphere experience. It's crazy in there.
Well, not without its cautionary tales, too. In that same Atlantic article, the author was talking to the guy who was designing some of the images for the U2 show. And I guess they experimented with some color fields that rapidly changed, and they were essentially making people vomit. And so they're like, okay, there's a line to cross here with the kind of technology that we have and how we should use it.
Can't go too far.
You know, another issue that comes up about the Sphere itself is sustainability. Let's talk about the sustainability of a massive project like the Sphere, though. Layla, what do we know, first of all, about the financial climate behind the Sphere?
Yeah, so I think some of us will be actually surprised to hear that it's not as bad as we might think. Early on, there was a headline came out in November that said the Sphere reports $98.4 million loss and the CFO quits. But that was pretty misleading because the fiscal quarter in that report was only 2 days long. Like the fiscal quarter ended on September 30th and they had opened on September 29th. So that loss took into account construction costs, opening day costs, and only 2 shows from U2. So of course, in that short time, they were going to report a loss. And they say that the CFO quitting had nothing to do with that. So fast forward to today, the quarter that ended on March 31st, 2024, they reported a $12.9 million operating income, and they still reported a loss of about $89 million, but that was like $100 million less than the quarter before. So they're not doing
What's $100 million between friends?
Exactly.
Sounds like a winner to me.
No biggie.
Exactly. So they're not making as much money as I think they hoped. It cost $2.3 billion to build.
Which was an overrun.
So they're still, they're still in the red, but I don't think it's as bad as the media is making it out to be.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast. Or, as I can say now, thanks to a few weeks with Babbel, hola, soy David Plotz, el jefe de CityCast. What if in 2024 you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help me start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you could do in a full year. I got started with Babbel because I realized that my girlfriend, who's a native Spanish speaker, and my son, who's in AP Spanish, were conspiring against me, or I thought they were conspiring against me in Spanish. I wanted to know what they were talking about. And now, thanks to literally just a few weeks of Babbel, I'm starting to be able to eavesdrop. It is rare that something so fun and simple, and Babbel is super fun and very simple, is also so useful. So here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Well, Rob, you know that they're diversifying their portfolio, if you will. It's not all just ticket sales to a movie and even outrageous price tickets for Grateful Dead and Phish anymore, is it?
No, and that's going to be one of the big stories in year 2 of the Sphere is how it shifts to accommodate sports. And the big event that's coming up in fall is the UFC is going to have its first ever event inside the Sphere. And they're saying it's going to be like a one-and-done event because, you know, the rent at the Sphere is not cheap. And UFC has invested $16 million into this project so far. It's kind of interesting to see how could this make the Sphere profitable for UFC? So it may not be a one-and-done thing. This may be something where we do see the UFC come back to the Sphere with a sponsor that doesn't really care about making a profit.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a way that they're trying to diversify their income because the Postcard from Earth movie and the whole Sphere experience was their number one moneymaker. And then events like their residencies was their second one, and it trailed far behind. So I'm wondering if they're trying to boost that income.
Well, the original idea was to have a second movie presentation ready around the anniversary, not of the Sphere itself in July, but when it actually opened to the public internally in October. I remember talking to some Sphere people right after A Postcard from Earth opened, and they said they're already working on the follow-up presentation. So this could turn into something where there's alternating features, or they just keep going from one to the next, hoping people go see whatever the current presentation is while it's available and not having that feeling of FOMO.
Well, you know, with that big a nut, they do need, billions of dollars spent. And, let's not discount the fact that there were a bunch of lawsuits against the Sphere as well, mostly by the construction companies who felt that they were being stiffed and others with, ongoing litigation, et cetera. It is a lot of hype about this thing. There's no getting around it. And again, like I said, you either love it or you just like it, but there's not a lot of room for haters anymore. I wonder, though, if it's still a gamble. Is Las Vegas letting our city be this kind of test case for other cities where we have to kind of take the lumps before it gets kind of smooth?
Well, the idea was to have several spheres in different cities around the world. And I think London most notably made some news by turning it down. I think possibly because of that light pollution or the location of being too close to certain things. But when I was talking to some people from the Sphere, they have like 6 different designs. So it's not like just taking the same sphere and putting it in different locations around the world. They have different size spheres that go all the way down to like smaller versions that are like 3,000 seaters. So obviously this is all still in development. But who knows what you might see? You might see maybe a more sustainable version of the Sphere pop up somewhere else, and it'll be more capable of making money.
Yeah, what's interesting is that failed bid for the London Sphere actually cost to them $116.5 million that they just chalked up as a loss. So I think Las Vegas very much is that test case where they're saying, oh, we don't like how it looks in Las Vegas, so this plan has failed. Maybe they'll go back with different plans that, like you said, Rob, address that light pollution or noise that the neighbors in London were worried about. But
yeah, Las Vegas has a history of saying yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
to almost everything and anything.
Exactly. We just said yes to it, so other cities haven't yet.
I wish we were a little better though at sort of tracing the impact of things that we do say yes to. At least, so we know. Like data is probably pretty good to have in pocket.
Yeah, instead of us being the data for everybody else.
Yeah, we're no data.
Hello,
we're
Vegas
just,
Loop.
We're just three people. We're, we have our viewpoints. We certainly have our aesthetic viewpoints about things. It has changed the skyline, though, hasn't it? I mean, that's undeniable. For better or worse, what do you think?
I'm a little surprised at how well it fit in. Like it kind of just seems to work, and I think we kind of got used to it relatively quick.
Yeah, I agree with Rob. One of the first images I saw in the Sphere was that basketball that they did for the NBA Summer League, and it was just so cool. Immediately, I was like, okay, I'm on board with the Sphere in Las Vegas. And you can even see it from Henderson, which is pretty, to me, impactful because it just changes the whole vibe of the city, including the suburbs.
There's also a concept called weenies, like Weenies, and it comes from Disneyland. And the idea is that within the environment, there are certain landmarks that help you orient where you are, where you want to go, that sort of thing. And the Sphere, as mentioned in one of the articles that I read about the Sphere over the year, and there's, again, so many of those, says that it was an instant weenie, which sounds like a bad thing, but
sounds
on
delicious.
The strip, yeah, it was right there. It's like if you see the Sphere or you head towards the Sphere, you kind of know where you're going. A little mid-strip action.
It's almost like the Strat.
Yeah, which is
a point
one
of
end.
reference.
And it's like the Luxor and the Stratosphere. I think for a second the High Roller, the rotation wheel was sort of the center orientation, but I think the Sphere's overshadowed it with light. So heading into the Sphere, I mean, so far, all their shows seem to be massive hits, at least in the public eye. One that caught my attention was, Phish, the band Phish, had a residency there, and Drew Carey, of all people, from The Price is Right and other places, he put this on Twitter, and then again, he repeated it on the CBS show After Midnight. Basically, he said, "I swear I just talked to God. Would give you all my money." And then he gets very graphic about what he would do with his own genitalia and other people's genitalia and give it all up in exchange for this, meaning the Phish show at the Sphere. He says, "Bro, I met God tonight for real. I feel like I just got saved by Jesus, no lie." Now, Drew Carey, I'm guessing a combination of Phish, possibly some not necessarily off-the-counter pharmaceuticals, and the incredible visuals of the Sphere all added to this experience. But wow, I mean, the Sphere is getting all kind of free publicity. But now we're also branching into sports. Rob, tell us about the other religious experiences that some people may be having or about to have over at the Sphere.
Well, yes, of course, these concerts have all been huge hits, not just financially, but people rave about them, whether it's U2, Phish, The Dead and Company, and hopefully that's going to be the case for the Eagles when they show up later this year. But we're also seeing the Sphere adapt to different purposes, and we saw that with the NHL Draft. And the Draft was the first Sphere event that was designed to be an experience not just in person, but for people watching at home on TV or on their phone or on YouTube or on their laptop. So we're now seeing in year two, the Sphere change from a media that's an in-person experience to kind of a transmedia experience. And we're going to see that with the event coming up July 4th, where the Sphere is going to debut its anniversary show, its Anniversary show, but it's also going to be a holiday Independence Day show on the exterior, the Exosphere, and that will be streamed online. And that's not just for this one event. This is something they're going to be doing going forward. And they're also debuting Sphere Exo Audio, where you will hear synchronized audio to go along with what's playing on the Exosphere. And you'll hear that online as well as in person if you're actually at the Sphere itself. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, but it's fascinating to see this technology evolve and not just sit still.
So the sphere, it's here to stay. Let's imagine that we're making a bingo card for the next year. What's a sphere headline that you expect to see in year 2 of the sphere? Real answers only. So nothing too funny, unless it's funny and you think it's going to be true.
My headline is kind of something that was rumored already, and I'm really hoping it comes true, is that Beyonce has a residency at the Sphere, which seems so far-fetched, but it has been rumored for about a year now. It first was rumored when she was on tour for her Renaissance album, and I just think she could really blow those visuals out of the water and create a really fun show. Probably would be way out of my price range, but I'd love to see like Beyonce or a super big like viral pop star at the Sphere this year.
Give me the headline.
Beyonce is coming to the Sphere, which has actually been a headline.
You're fired as a copy editor.
Well, she had that Verizon commercial where she was on top of the Sphere. At one point, that went nowhere and was so disappointing to all of her fans because everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is an announcement. That would be a really fun headline, and I'm still hoping that ends up happening, but I don't know. That's on my bingo card.
In reality, Beyonce got off, but the horse is still facing felony charges for destruction of property. How about you, Rob?
I think the big story coming up is this Venetian has already announced $1.5 billion in renovations. And if you're familiar...
Renovations to the Sphere? It's only a year old?
Hold on. You're getting ahead of me. So they've announced renovations to their property, and their property connects to the Sphere. And if you know anything about the Venetian, I mean, it's in pretty good shape. It's not like,
It's lots of fun.
It's not the artist formerly known as the Tropicana, where we're this thing needs to be cleaned up. The Venetian's a very nice hotel. And I think the big part of those renovations, this is just kind of my guess, is going to be that hallway that leads to the Sphere, because that entrance to the Sphere from the Venetian is a mess. It's a lot of gridlock. It's not easy to get into. I think they're going to do something to make it more comfortable and to make the Venetian itself, the Expo Center, more compatible and give it a little synergy with the Sphere.
David, what's your headline?
My headline is going to be something like, birds take residency up at the Sphere. That there's going to be some incident with wildlife. I'm guessing birds either crashing into the Sphere or like having nests up there, and then there's going to be this big human interest story. So I think that's a possibility. The one I don't want to see, but I'm always fearful of just because of the, financial history, is Sphere declares bankruptcy. That would be rough, but
in year 2?
In year 2. I mean, that would be really rough. Or Sphere up for sale.
Yikes.
Something like that.
The Sphere is too big to fail. To see the Sphere go dark would be the saddest thing ever in Las Vegas.
Well, I don't think that necessarily means it would go dark. I just think that it would be like, oh, maybe the Sphere isn't all that it's financially cracked up to be. But I don't know. I'm speculating, of course. And that's the game we're playing here as we look back at the year of Sphere. We did it, guys. Well, Rob, Layla, thanks for joining me on this celebration of the Sphere.
Thank you. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Las Vegas.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show too, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.